Welcome to Weaving Trust Podcast. Hi, I'm Kathy Doherty, the People Navigator, and I help businesses avoid hiring and holding on to horrible people. This podcast is a space for honest, human-centred conversations about how trust shapes the way we lead, work and live together. I'm so looking forward to you hearing the stories that each guest has to share, and each episode will be slightly different because as we weave our way through the journey of my guest, we may go off on a few tangents here and there, but that adds to the enrichment of the tapestry that we're weaving. I hope you enjoy this journey as much as I did. Hi Martin, welcome to Weaving Trust Podcast. Thank you for joining me. I'm so delighted to welcome you, and I'm looking forward to where this conversation goes. But before we get stuck in, would you introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers who may not already know who you are?
My name is Martin Gilchrist, and I am the practice manager at Gilchrist Co Chartered Accountants. Now, the thing is, everybody knows what an accountancy firm is, so I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to take a brief moment just to say what my passion is and why I'm here with you today, Kathy. The first reason I'm with you, I warned you. I did warn you.
Well, at least this isn't a live broadcast.
Yeah, the first reason I'm here with you, Kathy, is because you're a great person. You're a great crack and you're great fun to be with. And I honestly, as I said earlier on, I've been looking forward to this conversation for ages. If no one else watches it, just to have the opportunity to get to have half an hour, 40 minutes with you, it's going to be well worth it. Who's Martin Gilchrist? Martin Gilchrist is a lot of things, as we all are, you know, hobbies and activities and passions and dislikes and likes and blah, 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 blah. But the thing I would like people to take away from this conversation today is that I am passionate about connecting small business and small business people. And at Gilchrist Co, we do a huge amount of work around that in relation to events and online stuff. And that's why I was delighted when Kathy invited me along to this today, because this is about connecting. And if you're watching this and you get the opportunity to connect with Kathy, please do, because only good can come from it.
I'll pay you later.
Okay, thank you. I'll send through the bank details.
So, and that leads me on quite nicely to my next question, which is, we do lead such busy lives. There's always something, and there's also the passion of wanting to do lots of things, and the more we find something that excites us, the more we want to do it. And with your love of connecting people, what's something that you find that helps ground you, or that maybe is completely joyful in your life right now?
I say to Michelle, this is all I need all the time. It's just goes, man, shut up. So we'd be sitting in the coffee shop. We go to coffee shops quite a lot, and Lineage, for example, we're having a pop-up Christmas open coffee next week, the 4th of December. Everybody's welcome, but nobody's seeing this before then. But if you were,
it will have been absolutely fantastic.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic.
You really missed out.
You really missed it. You know, whatever it was back in December. But Lineage is one of the coffee shops we go to, and me being a lot more romantic and corny and Michelle, I'd reach my hand across, put my hand in hers, and I go, darling, this is all I need. And she's like, yeah, whatever. What about your networking events? What about your camper van? What about having to go walk 10 miles every day? What about all this stuff that you get up to? But genuinely, I really believe that all I need to ground me, to bring me back to reality, to remind me of what the point of all this is, because we are all busy, we are all live hectic lives, and in an accountancy practice at this time of year, it is completely nuts, crazy busy, which is good, better looking forward than looking at it than looking forward. But the thing that grounds me is sitting down and enjoying good food with good friends. I love that. If somebody could give me a magic wand and say, Martin, you can do your very favorite thing, I would love to bring a table of maybe 5, 6, 8 of my bestest pals. You'd be one of those, Kathy. And put us around the table and just be there for the
Definitely
breakfast. You remembered breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. I also like, do you know, I also like if I'm not having breakfast, which is my favorite meal of the day. I love the background in where you're sitting at the moment. That
Thank
sort
you.
of like bookcasey oldie worldy sort of thing.
And that's real.
Franco,
That's not a false screen.
that's
That's
not,
actually
yeah,
the real thing.
mine's is the fake thing because if I took my fake thing down, my room looks like a bomb's gone off in it. So, but I would love to be in an environment like yours. If there was the proper je ne sais quoi or ambiance,
Ambiance.
ambiance.
Ambiance. Are
Uh,
we are we channeling Mickey Flanagan here?
yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly who I'm thinking of. So, Mickey Flanagan's ambiance. I'm thinking maybe Henry's in Joy Street, Joy's Entry in Belfast. One of those tables in the corner, a cold Christmassy evening, getting there maybe about 7:30 and still being there at 1:30 in the evening or in the morning after having a fantastic evening, just
And not
chatting and
noticing the
laughing and
time passing.
that's it. And it's over before you know it. And those things never last long enough. But as far as I'm concerned, that's what life's all about.
Very good. So this conversation is focused around weaving trust.
Oh.
And Nick, that's important. Giving it some more nuance and ambiance than maybe intended. But in terms of all of your connection building, and not just in terms of the accountancy side of things, but all of the effort, all of the work that you put into connecting people. And if you don't know Martin, and you are in and around Northern Ireland, particularly Belfast, kind of East Coasty, when you mention Martin's name, people smile. There is a connection, and he is well known for wanting to be the first to ask a question and taking great pride in that. And so that to have that impact on people, for there to be that warmth, that also relies on trust and building trust, that people, they can rely on who you are. They know in terms of some of who you are, obviously not every part of you, but a fair amount. But for you, can you share maybe a moment or an experience that's shaped how you think about trust and what it means to you?
Well, trust is crucial. If you don't trust a person, it makes it very difficult to have a relationship with them. So, and my world is all about relationships. Think of what it means to be an accountant. Now, I have to qualify that by saying I'm not actually an accountant. I'm the practice manager in Gilchrist Co Chartered Accountants, but I'm working in an accountancy practice. And people, when they come to their accountants, tell them things that they wouldn't tell their own parents. On sometimes, like how much money you have, how much money you don't have, how much debt you have, whether your business is in trouble. These are all very personal, private things. And you're telling them to someone that's effectively a stranger, and you have to trust them. But how do you trust a stranger? Well, it comes from credibility. And where does credibility come from? Credibility comes from a lot of different places, but it comes from consistency. You have to be consistently the person that you purport to be. You can't pretend to be someone that you're not. I can't pretend that Gilchrist & Co is qualified to do all the stuff that we're not. Like, we don't do R&D tax credits or capital allowance on the disposal of commercial properties or all those highly profitable things, because they're not our area of expertise, and we wouldn't purport to be able to do stuff that we wouldn't purport to be able to do. But where real credibility comes from isn't just your own experience or how knowledgeable you are or how consistent you are. It's what other people think of you, as you've just said, effectively. What do people say about you when you're not there? What do people think about you when they think about you and you're not there? If I wasn't online talking to you today, Kathy, and somebody said, "What about that guy, Martin Gilchrist? What's he like?" What would you really think? You might not say it. But what do you really think? And essentially, that's my job in Gilchrist & Co. Like Michelle, FCA, Senior Member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, one of the most capable accountants I've ever come across. An absolute delight to work with. Privileged to be married to her. All the good stuff. we know everybody knows me, knows what I think of Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't be out there in the world doing what I'm doing all the time because she has to do the hard, nitty-gritty work.
Mm-hmm.
What she's doing is incredibly difficult, and you have to be able to focus, and you have to be able to maintain that focus over a long period of time. And she just doesn't have the luxury of doing that, going out and telling the world how brilliant she is. And if the world doesn't know how fantastic Michelle is at her job and how great we are at Gilchrist Co, what's the point? Nobody can benefit from it. Nobody can see us. Nobody can use us. Nobody can contact us. We can't help them. So my job is that going out and finding ways to build credibility by connecting with good people and doing good stuff with them. And that leads to trust.
And so, thinking of your own personal kind of journey, has there ever been a time when maybe trust was broken and you've had to rebuild it or anything like that?
Yeah, you do find occasions where it's just the nature of business. It doesn't matter whether you're an accountant or what type of business you're in. You're going to come across people that will break your trust. I hope we have never done it. I hope we have never committed to doing something or said that we would do something and then not followed through. We do work very hard to make sure that we live up to our own standards and our own promises and our own commitments. I'll give you one example of something maybe not too serious. I don't want to get too heavy, but to give you a lighter example.
But I think because people know you in terms of the ones who know you in the real world, know in terms of the positivity, the joy, and maybe don't see the depth of, in terms of the experience that's led to that point. You're the joy and the sparkle, but there's also the depth as well.
Yeah, I do love compliments. Thank you. Keep them coming. There's two things I love.
I'll add a little sparkle.
Yeah, that'll do in the editing.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be very funny. No, I do like a good compliment. I also like a round of applause. Yeah, I
will try and edit as many in as possible.
Yeah. Funny, I was at a JP Taggart and Sean Grant had invited me. They've actually invited me to a couple of events recently, but they invited me to something where Jason Lear was doing a TEDx thing. So it was a TEDx event in Belfast. And there wasn't really a Q&A, and you mentioned the fact that I do like to get the first question, and it's I don't try to get the first question, I just get the first question every time. Have you yet seen a room where I haven't got the first question? It's.
I also think when people see that your hand goes up, they go, "We've got to give this to Martin." There hasn't been anybody yet who feels the need to compete, to go, yeah. I need to snatch this from you.
Yeah, you always know it's going to be something crazy, or interesting. But actually, so I was at the TEDx event, and there was no mention of a Q&A session. So I texted Jason or WhatsApped him and just said, Jason, will there be a Q&A at the end of this, whatever it was? And Jason texted back, no.
Full stop.
No. Saying that, he wasn't as blunt as that. He said, well, Martin, the compere will probably decide, and it's up to them to decide, and if there's enough time, but I think this particular compere is running out of time, so blah, blah, blah. No, it was essentially the answer. So I was sitting there going, and the compere, like about 2 minutes later, said, and if we have, what she said was, and if we had time for questions, not, and if we have time for questions. So the moment she said question, I was like a jack out of the box. Me, I've got a question. You can see the shock on her face. And it appears we have a question. Declan Barry, who's a cheeky monkey. I don't know if you know Declan Barry.
I know the name.
Yeah. So I only got as far. So I always start my question. My name's Martin Gilchrist. I'm the practice manager from Gilchrist Co Chartered Accountants. And I got out and I was doing it very theatrically. My name's Martin Gilchrist. And before I could get to practice management, Declan Barry, who was on the panel on the stage, Martin, where are you from? I was like, well, thanks, Declan, for asking. And I asked this very, very energetic question. The question isn't really that important, whatever the question was. But I finished my question, and I got a round of applause from the audience. Like, how often does that happen? Do you get a round of applause for asking the question?
Asking the question, yeah.
Like, it was like proper question time on TV. A question that I shouldn't have asked. You know, I didn't have permission.
Now, I wonder if they were applauding the question itself or applauding the fact that it was you who so energetically and enthusiastically ensured you got to ask it and did ask it.
Yeah, maybe it was the humour of the moment, I think. But yeah, it's moments like that there that I do quite enjoy, and why I do that. But part of it is the enjoyment and the energy, and I would leave that room feeling energized then after being involved in that sort of nonsense, but that sort of activity. But at the same time, what it does is, from a very selfish point of view, everybody in the room then knew who I was and where I was from. Every single person, even though I'd never been on the stage that night. And not only that, my credibility was enhanced by the fact that people who were on the stage knew who I was, and even in a jokingly sort of way, give me a shout out. So Declan, who was on the stage, knew who I was, and he'd performed very well that evening. You know, he came across incredibly well. So anybody who didn't know me and had seen Declan speak very authoritatively on a subject would sort of go, well, Declan knows him, and he was happy to give him a shout out. Yeah. And then I got a round of applause. So all of these things add up to going, who is this guy? Who is this extraordinary character that turns up and makes noise and has to be seen and stuff? But it seems to work very well because we are always incredibly busy at Gilchrist. We've never, in years, I can't remember the last time that we haven't at least had a couple of months of work ahead of us ready to go.
Yeah.
Don't know if that answered the question, or I just went off and told a wee story.
Well, but that's the beauty of this, is that we go in so many different directions according to where the conversation flows. So, can you think of anyone who has taught you something important or essential about trust?
Yes, right away. It always pops into my head. I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother was a true matriarch. You know, she was only like 5 foot tall. She was tiny, a tiny wee woman.
Like me.
Yes, like you.
The 5'0" club.
Yeah. She was literally like, you don't seem small. You seem larger than life. When I think of you, I don't think of someone who's 5 foot.
Yeah.
But anyway, my grandmother was like that as well, and she loved me. Like, she had loads and loads of grandchildren, but I was her blue-eyed boy for whatever reason. And well, maybe because she raised me, maybe because I lived in her house for many years. But she was, she came from, her mother had raised her alone, had raised her and her family alone, as her father had died before my grandmother was born. So my grandmother was a twin, and before those twins were even born, her father had died. And he had left his wife, my great grandmother, with a business which effectively was a public house. So my great grandmother ran a public house. She then raised my grandmother to be a strong woman in her own right, because it was basically a household of women that were left running this place, and running a public house back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. You know, it wasn't necessarily as easy as you might think, and. So it made her into a strong woman, and she had very definite views in relation to stuff like, she didn't call it entrepreneurialism, but she called it being responsible for yourself. Take responsibility for yourself. And if somebody asked me now, what's the most important word in business? Based on your question, so who made an influence on you? This is the most important word in business. I learned this from my grandmother, and it's responsibility. The ability to take responsibility. But it's not just taking responsibility for yourself, for your actions, for the way you treat your clients, our customers, for educating yourself so you can do a really good job. But you also have to be responsible for the people around you. So you have to take responsibility for your staff, and for your team, and for your network, and even for your clients. And you take responsibility for things that aren't your fault. That's where true professionalism, that's where true business leadership is. When you step up and say, look, I didn't do anything wrong here. That's what, and the point is, you're not taking the blame. You don't take the blame for something that's not your fault. but you do take responsibility where you have to get the job done. And I think the very important lesson I learned from my grandmother was always take responsibility for yourself. Don't expect someone else to come and rescue you. Don't expect somebody else to take the blame. Don't expect somebody else to stand up and be grounded if you're in the room.
Yeah.
If you want something to happen, take responsibility for making it happen yourself. And that's why we do all this stuff outside of the tax returns and all the stuff that we get paid for, and it's great, and that would take responsibility for. But we also take responsibility for creating an environment in Northern Ireland that we want to see. And if that is creating events where people feel a buzz and an energy and a positivity and leave feeling motivated or inspired or feel that they can engage with others or meet other good people, or they just realize that they're not alone in the world, that there's people just like them. That's us taking the responsibility to make sure that happens, because why should it be somebody else's job if we can do it as well?
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So in terms of, because I would see a lot in terms of leaders in business who, rather than them taking responsibility, they would turn to quickly blame somebody else. What would be your advice or approach to dealing with somebody like that?
How to deal with a leader as an advising them, or if I'm a victim of a leader like that, or at the wrong end. Where am I answering the question from?
Say if you were advising, you were mentoring somebody. Say if you were mentoring a leader who would take the approach that it wasn't me who mucked up. I'm not taking responsibility for that, but it was a member of my team who did it.
What would I say to them?
What would you say to them?
Right. So I'm talking to the leader and I'm saying, look, you're privileged. You're the boss. You can make this go the way you want it to go, and everybody who's following along behind you will follow your lead. You set the tone. You set the energy. You set how people are going to behave when you're not there. Now, what do you think they're thinking if you're not stepping up, if you're not taking responsibility? Why would they then take responsibility if you're not willing to do it? The moment you show that you're willing to pass the buck, they're going to go, well, they're the boss. That's the way they treat it. And even subconsciously, they'll start stepping back rather than stepping forward. What you want to do is imagine a battle, and you're charging into battle. If you're sitting in the background, who's going to charge? You have to be at the front. That's the privilege, but it's also the cost. And that means that you have to take the brickbats, and you have to take the criticism, and you have to take the bad mouthing, and you have to take the hassles, because you're what? The leader. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody plans to be a leader. But if you are the leader, you're the leader. So step up. Be the big boy or big girl in the room and do what you have to do. Take responsibility. That's what I would say.
And so what then helps you, say you're in a more challenging moment? How do you then build trust in those challenging moments? Because it's easy to build trust in the joyful moments and the connecting moments. But what about where maybe there's pressure, or there's maybe something hasn't gone quite so right? How do you go about building trust with people in a difficult or a more challenging environment?
The first thing you do is you start off with courtesy. Put yourself in the shoes of the person that the difficult situation is happening with. There actually was an email that came through last night at about 9 o'clock, and it was in regard to declarations in relation to company house submissions. There are certain legal declarations that we had to make, and the client was surprised about some of the declarations that were going on to the public record. They didn't realise that they were going on, even though that had been explained to them previously. They'd just forgotten, but they had obviously seen something, and it's
panic.
Typed a sort of semi-angry email. It started off, "Dear Martin, hope you're well," and then it went downhill.
That was maybe their first draft, the cathartic offloading.
And they didn't do a second draft. So this email arrived through at 9 o'clock. It's also done after work hours, so they're obviously had a bad moment. Yeah. But they were just mistaken. They just didn't understand the complexity of what it was. So what we did was, or what I did was, because this is a valuable client, they've been with us many years. I do like the client. We have a laugh on many
Yeah.
occasions. And I don't want that to be broken or be
Yeah.
disrupted, and I do want them to continue as a client. So I took the time, and it took about an hour and a half last night to sit and draft an explanation of exactly the situation that had occurred and why it occurred and why we were obliged on their behalf to make the submissions in the way we did. And also make the offer to them, look, we'll take as much time to go through this with you so that you're satisfied that this was done correctly, and it was done with you in mind, so with your best interests in mind. And the client just came back and went, thanks, I understand. And it had been done and dusted. Now, an automatic reaction immediately would be, hold on a second. We spent ages working on this to get the thing right for them, and I don't think we even charged them the full amount for what we should have been charged for this if we consider the amount of time we spent on it. And then that's the reaction we're getting. Clear off. But who would that have helped? So the client had not understood someone. That's not their job. That's our job. That's our job as professionals. So I had to take the responsibility to ensure that they did understand where they were coming from, and to do it in a way that didn't make what was, a tricky situation or a tricky communication worse. I didn't want to embarrass the client by saying, that your email was quite rude or anything like that. It was about, right, how do we move on from this to make things best as possible? So it's that would be an example of a very recent time, very immediate time that, something came in that was a little bit difficult, down to misunderstanding, but through the appropriate training and consideration, or treatment and consideration, you got the optimal outcome.
Very good. And I think it can be, when you receive an email like that, is that it can trigger immediate kind of reactions in people. And what sometimes people don't do is take the time to let that pass and not respond, not react in that moment, but to actually to do what you did, was to actually respond, not react to that initial email.
And the thing is, there's also a cliche, you don't have to fight every fight that's brought to you. Trouble will come to you. You don't have to fight every fight, and there's other cliches about change what you can, leave what you can't, and live happily or something. Just making that up, really. But there's a lot of stuff that you probably could get justifiably angry or snottery or stuff about, and you don't need to. I'll give you another example of a time. Now, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes as well.
No, surely not, Martin.
I do, and I get grumpy, and I get. So today I was all booked in for there's an event down in the Ulster Bank in Belfast. They have like an innovation centre or whatever it's called, startup centre. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there was supposed to be a 1 hour event from 11 until 12 for mentors, and I had a ticket booked, and it was an awful morning this morning. I don't know if you remember. It was pouring with rain. It was cold and it was wet, and I live about 45 minutes to an hour from Belfast city centre, so I had to drive down from the countryside into the city, and then get parked in the rain, and then walk in the rain, and I was getting stuck behind traffic, and I could just feel the bad energy building up in me before I even got to the meeting. And the receptionists in the corporate end of the Ulster Bank can be a little bit abrupt, to say the least.
Okay.
Some people might say rude, but I'll just say abrupt. And I found this a couple of times going in, that they're a little bit, they're like medical receptionists. How dare you turn up? So I turned up, and I thought I was 5 minutes late after killing myself to try and get to this thing, and the receptionist behind the desk went, yes, can you tell me who you are, please? I went, I'm Martin Gilchrist. Your name's not here, Martin. I went, oh, I've got a ticket on the phone. No, it doesn't matter. Your name's not here. Can you go over to that machine over there and type in loads of stuff and take loads of time to do that, and not hassle me anymore? That I'm paraphrasing, right? Which is a little bit blunt. And I went, okay. So I went over to this machine. You have to take a picture, and then you have to type in your name, and you have to type in your email address. And you have to type in your telephone number and your birth weight and how many grannies you have. And like all this information. And I went back and I said, so I've typed in all the stuff to do. And she had this one of these wee badges things, and I go, where do I go? And she said, you go and sit down in there, in like a wee meeting room. And I just got a wee bit angry. I went, right, all right. Off I went with a wee strump and sat in the meeting room. So that was the meeting I was supposed to start at 11 o'clock. And so it'd taken 5 minutes. I was 5 minutes late, and it'd taken 5 minutes to go through all this nonsense. So I was 10 minutes late, and it was only supposed to be for an hour. I was sitting going, I'm missing this. There's something happening up there, and I'm not being allowed in. Because that girl at the thing won't let me through the gates. So I said, right, I'm going to sit here until 1:15, and then I'm going to go and ask. 1:15, jumped up. Over. And I said, look, I don't mean to be rude, but my meeting started at 11 o'clock. It's 11:15 now. How do they know that I'm here? And they said, well, he sent me a message. I said, well, I'm here to see John first. What if he's up on the stage? He won't see them. I said, well, I'll go through the iPad to someone else, and they'll come down. I went, all right. Turn my head. Walked up, she hadn't finished. And at that point, I realised I sat down and went, that was just rude. It doesn't matter what she's doing. I have been rude there, and I've been blatantly rude, and she'll remember me now as that rude guy.
The rude Martin.
The rude everybody said he's so nice. He's actually a wee rude person. And about 20 minutes later, this girl arrives down. She goes, "Hiya, Martin." Like, I think she knew who it was. Maybe I shouldn't know who she was. And I went, "Hiya, come on through." I get on through, and when I was beside the security guard was standing there, it's Martin, I've got bad news. I went, what? She says, you should have got an email to tell you this had been cancelled. And I went,
you mean I've been through all of this morning for nothing? You'd be one of those memes, like the elbow on fire kind of volcano thing.
And you know that thing, you're just peed off, and you're angry, and you're frustrated, and all the little things have built up to it. And it was nobody's fault, really. Like, it was maybe I didn't get the email, but these things happen.
Culmination of things.
And you could see the girl was standing there going, God, what am I going to do? Do you want to come up anyway? And I was like, no.
I'm just going to go home. I just want to go. Just get me out of here.
Yeah. So, I'm not always Mr. Happy Nice Guy. Sometimes I'm like Mr. Grumpy. And I do feel bad. If I could apologise to that poor girl in the reception, I probably would go back and say, I'm sorry. I wasn't awful, but I wasn't. I could be nicer.
And I think that's it's always remembering that there's usually a bigger context to what, to that initial interaction, where maybe it isn't, maybe she wasn't in particularly good form because of something or other, and then, she met with, you're not in great form, kind of. So it was probably turned out better than it might have had it been somebody else,
Yeah, could have been worse.
So because they're all, we encounter all these challenging moments, shall we say, throughout life.
Don't we?
And so, is there anything that you do either routinely or like a ritual or a habit or a belief or anything that you do that kind of helps you stay anchored in trust, even when sometimes it feels that maybe things aren't maybe going the way that you would like them to go?
Cocaine?
Yeah, not that. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, somebody was telling me, I don't believe them, somebody was telling me that there's a big cocaine problem in the accountancy industry in Northern Ireland. I went, that's rubbish. I have never heard of any accountant ever taking cocaine. I've never heard
about it in certain other industries, but it wouldn't immediately jump to mind that it's accountants.
Industry. No, so no, I don't do cocaine. What do I do? Do you want the honest answer is I just keep on keeping on. I I think a big part of it is liking yourself. Do you like yourself? Do you like do you like the person that you are? Do you like the voice inside your head that talks to you? Do you like do other people like you? Like does your wife like you? Do your kids like you? Does your family like you? Are you a likable sort of character? And if you start off from the premise that you like yourself, then you can use that to ground yourself, I suppose. So, um, because I do like myself, and I don't mean that in a narcissistic type of way.
Yeah.
I like the person that I am,
Mm.
and the community and the company that I keep and the stuff that I do with the company that I keep. And it's that keeps me grounded. I don't need holidays and I don't need, well, maybe meditation would help, but I don't feel the need for
Mm-hmm.
any of that stuff, you know, cold water swimming or mountain climbing or paragliding or I don't know, stuff that people do,
Mm-hmm.
skiing holidays or holidays in Thailand. None of that stuff I require
Mm.
to to have what I have now. And I think generally speaking, I'm a fairly stable, under control type of person. Like I don't have frequent outbursts of really bad temper. I don't have moments of deep despondent. Touch wood, Tom. If- but
Would
with
you,
everything
this
seems.
where we flashed to something previously or in the future?
So I feel like everything is pretty much under control at the
Mm.
moment and satisfactory. I remember seeing somewhere once that it's great to be really happy and ecstatic to be happy and really excited and to be excited and happy and blah blah blah.
Mm.
And it's bad to be really low and really depressed and all this type of stuff. But really what you're trying to do is just keep a consistency. And
Mm.
you should appreciate that if your life is just calm,
Mm-hmm.
that you should really just count your blessings.
Yeah.
And my life is calm.
Mm-hmm.
Martin, what was this? Michelle bought me this keyring once, and it said "steady ship on a stormy sea." I'm trying to think, but it reflected something in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
there was something about me that said "steady ship on a stormy sea." And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much me, I think. Ask Michelle, she might say something different, but in my head,
We'll have the two of you on at some point and see
yeah,
it kind
yeah, you have to do that. You have to do that.
So is there anything that you've had to unlearn about trust?
Um, I've gone both ways on this. So Michelle used to say I was very naive. I used to believe everything that anybody told me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first met her, she told me that um, the Chinese put eggs into their ice cream in the Chinese restaurant, and that's why it tasted different. But it didn't taste different. It was just ice cream, and I believed her. I was going, wow. And she just told me that just out of
Did
badness
you
because
did
she
you
knew it
share
was
did
that.
you share it with anybody else?
I can't. Well, I'm sharing it with you now. And I believed this for a whole year until we went back to that same place. And we'll go to the restaurant with the eggs. What are you talking about? And the eggs and the ice cream. It's just, Martin, do you still believe that? So, so I was very innocent and naive, and I don't know why that happened. Maybe the way I was brought up. And I believe what people tell me. I take it at face
Mm.
value. And so, over time, I stopped believing people. I stopped being so trustworthy. But then I realized that's wrong because then what you're doing is you're not treating people that deserve trust with trust. So now I've gone back the other way again, and although I'm not as naive and as trustworthy as I would have been when I was very young,
Yeah.
before I met Michelle, I should beat that out of me. Um, what I'm trying to do now is give people the benefit of the doubt. So start
Mm.
off with being trusting, and now there's certain situations there we do have to go. Like an engagement letter with a new client requires us to do AML checks,
Yeah.
anti-money laundering check. But obviously, we're going to do those.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I trust you. I have a
Yeah.
legal obligation to do that.
Yes.
So obviously, within the realms of professional behavior, I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'll trust them until there's a reason not to trust them. And I find that generally works well. I think
Mm.
people who are given trust become more trustworthy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that kind of showing that you're leading the way in terms of that trust, and there's no reason not to trust until
Mhm.
there's a reason not to trust.
Yeah, I trust. So that's what I try to do in an ideal world.
So what about whenever maybe things are a little bit fragile on the trust? You know, there's a bit of uncertainty there. How do you deal with that?
I can actually think this. There's actually a thing I'm dealing with at the moment where that is the case. And I'm trying to think how much detail I can actually go into it without breaking the trust that I have to
I
keep.
I can edit things out if needs be.
Yeah, I can give you the gossip. Nobody else will hear.
It'll drop on the cutting room
Yeah,
floor.
yeah, Martin, tell me that story. Go into the gritty detail. No, I'm not going to. Right. So, what do you do when the trust is getting a little bit frayed? Um, well, one of the common areas where trust does get, it's not a big area of trust, but we, the way accountants generally bill is we do the work and then we present the work to the client and say, are you happy for us to submit this tax return? And they review it and there might be a few changes. And then after all that's done, you issue a bill and then the client has 30 days to pay. Now, we have a wee pay now button on our invoices, and I would say about 60% of our clients just hit that pay now button. So they get an invoice in the email and they immediately pay it. That is fantastic. It shows us that they value the work that we're doing for them. But there's about, at any one stage, there's maybe about 10 clients out of our 300, so it's not a lot, but 10 clients that we know won't pay until they get at least a first reminder and sometimes a second reminder. And there's some people who just don't want to pay anybody ever at all. And it comes across as that's just not the way it works. You're not playing by the game. Even if you do pay eventually, you're damaging the relationship of trust between us because we're doing our very best to do the job right for you, and then you're not doing the bit that you have to do, which is pay. And that's really all you have to do. Tell us the truth and pay the bill. And part of that is, so what you would like to be able to say is, look, we appreciate that you probably had a difficult situation this month, and we want to be able to help you, so we'll give you a little bit of flexibility. And some people just rip the pants out of that, the seat of the pants out. They'll just go, "Oh right, you let me away with it that way. I'm going to take 2 months to pay the next time, and the next time I'll just not pay until I get a final reminder."
Yeah.
So the way we deal with that is we have, from a professional point of view, how do we deal with the fraying of trust from a professional point of view? We have preset policies and guidelines and instructions and principles within the practice that we can follow through. So credit control, we just use standard procedures. So we do the work, we issue the bill, you get 30 days to pay. If you don't pay within 30 days, there's a letter and an email goes out and it says, look, please pay within the next 10 days. It's called a friendly reminder. And it generally is just a friendly reminder. If you don't pay within 10 days, then the policy, the system says that a second reminder will go out, and that will be, look, this is a second reminder. Please do pay. You have to pay now within 10 days. And then very occasionally, we haven't had to send one of these out in, I think, over a year. There's a final reminder which says, you have a legal obligation, and the next step is court action. Please pay within 10 days. And then there's a court action step, and then there's a recovery step. So it depends on how far the client is willing to push the trust. And to be fair, very, very few people go to a third reminder. Most people who forget genuinely forget. The second reminders are people who are generally pushing their luck, but will pay. People who go to third reminder either had no intention to pay, would try and get away without paying. And I'll be completely honest, my experience is birds of a feather, and is that the expression? Leopards don't change their spots. That's the expression. The people that don't pay are always the one. I could make a £10,000 bet with you who will be late in paying their bills this month because I know they just don't change. And I could also make the same bet on you who will just hit the button and pay right away.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting any more of it. So yeah, that's how we deal with frayed trust within the practice. There are, and it's not just for credit control, engagement letters are detailed, so there can be no confusion by what the service is, when the service is going to provide it, what the information we require is, when, how much it's going to cost you. All of that stuff is set out in detail, and every interaction that requires some sort of an input from the client is detailed, and that's so that everybody understands what the rules are before we start, and what we're trusting the client to do, because at the end of the day, we're doing the work before we're getting paid. So we're trusting the client will get paid. But we're also trusting the client to tell us the truth with the information that they provide us with. And we're trusting it, like coming now, if anybody hasn't got their self-assessment tax returns in, and obviously this will be shared after, but they've left it very late, you know, and they've already been reminded 3 times. And there's an element of trust that they'll give us sufficient time to be able to prepare the books properly in order to have an accurate and set of accounts that reflect the reality of the situation.
Yes.
Sometimes you get people that leave it to the very last minute in the hope that you miss something.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
And that's evident. You know, it's not that we haven't seen this before in 30 years in practice, but I think some people don't realise that, you know, we're on
you
to
won't
that.
you simply won't have time to do all the due diligence
all
and
the
things
checks.
that are in it.
But we always set aside enough time. We don't take on work unless we have enough time to do all the checks. Now, from my client's point of view, they may go on, but you're my accountant, and surely you're supposed to do it the way I wanted to do it. That's not the way it works. What we're supposed to do is do it. Yes, we want to do it the way you want it done, but we're all supposed to do it to your best interest. And the best interest is keeping you out of jail, or making sure you avoid tax penalties, or like being blackmarked with HMRC. So there will be occasions when we have to do stuff that maybe the client would have preferred we did it another way, but we can't. You know, we have to act in their best interest. It's well like going to the doctor and saying, "Look, I want diazepam." The doctor goes, "No." You don't need diazepam.
And I'm not just going to give it. Yeah, I'm sure they hear an awful lot of that. Yeah. It's having that strength, I suppose, to stand by what you know is it's doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not all, and it won't always be the right thing for the person in front of you. So I went to my doctor and I said I wanted, so I've got type 2 diabetes, and you can get these wee things that you put onto your arm that gives constant monitoring type stuff. Now, some people are entitled to them and some people aren't. I wasn't. Now, obviously I wasn't happy with that decision, you know. What do you mean, no?
Don't you know who I am?
Don't you know who I am? Martin Gilchrist, practice manager at Gilchrist Co Chartered Accountants. I've got a question.
And I will be the first to ask it, because there's nobody else here except me and you.
So yeah, you know, and so I understand there's going to be times that other professionals can't just do what I want them to do, but even though I think it's in my best interest, but you have to be willing to, you know, and sometimes the client might think, well, that's a breach of trust or it's a breach of our relationship, but it's not. It's genuinely us doing what is the best thing for them, for us, and for the practice, and for their business.
The reason why you would have an accountant as opposed to trying to do it yourself.
One of the many reasons, and probably not one of the top reasons, but it's for an accountant to tell you can't do that. But it is if someone really gets what it is to be in business and why an accountant is important. Sometimes you need someone there to be the brake on the craziness before it runs down the hill and out of control.
So what's one thread of trust that you would like the listeners or our viewers to carry forward? Your words of wisdom.
Okay, my words of wisdom are: be what you want to see in the world. So if you want something, if you want to be treated in a certain way, if you want people to behave with you in a certain way, if you want to feel a certain way when you're interacting with others, do it first. You know, be the first to show trust, be the first to be trustworthy. Lead with trust, because you have to be willing to be let down, because if you're constantly defensive, if you're constantly untrusting, it's going to be harder for other people to be what you want them to be. Essentially, you're a mirror to the world. Like, well, how you treat people is what you get reflected back. I believe, in not all the time, but most times. Somebody told me once there's this thing called mirror neurons, and mirror neurons are effectively your ability to read somebody else's mind. I don't know if they were a neurologist. It was just somebody, some bloke told me this thing.
Was it in the pub at about 1:30 in the
It sort of was.
morning?
It was in a networking event late one evening, and I think there was alcohol involved by this stage, because I can remember the person who told me this was usually a grumpy person, and on this occasion they were actually being very talkative and bubbly. But they told me this story anyway, and he said, I can't remember the context of how we got onto mirror neurons, but I can remember standing in front of this guy who I used to think was grumpy, who was being all friendly. He said, "Oh, Marty," he says, "yeah, mirror neurons, they're a real thing, and you can control people with mirror neurons." And I went, "What?" And he went, "Yeah, you can basically control people's minds. It's a natural human instinct." And he says, and I can evidence that for you. And I went, "Oh." I said, "Like hypnotism?" He says, "No, it's like this." He says, the next time you're with someone, now you can tell them if you want to or not, but you can just do it as a wee test. Just sit and do this. And he smiled at me, like this crazy smile. but he meant it. He just smiled. And he said, "Look, it worked. You're smiling back." And he says, "That's mirror neurons." And he said, "You don't even have to smile properly. Just look at somebody, have a conversation, and just feel like you're smiling. Smile as if you're smiling in yourself. And imagine it in your head that you're smiling at this person. And they will smile back to you." Yeah. And I've done that a couple of times, and people have always smiled back to me. So there is truth in this saying that you're a mirror. Like the world mirrors you back. So if you go out in the world, you're angry or you're aggressive or you're people are going to react in an angry or an aggressive way. Like the girl in Ulster Bank wasn't very friendly to me after I was a wee bit grumpy, so but the other girl, by that time I caught a grip of myself, and I was being, "Oh, that's okay." She was all friendly. Like she was like genuinely nice. And the security guard was being all friendly as well, because he was laughing at my joke. I said, "I suppose we're gonna have to go out into the rain now, all sad." And he was like, "Oh."
I don't have to. I'm indoors. Bye.
Yeah, I'm indoors. Bye. So that would be the thing. Be the go first.
All right. So as we come to the end.
No way.
I know already.
How long was it?
We've been chatting for a wee while.
Have I got my full 1 hour 5 minutes? Somebody else got.
Nearly.
We're going to wind this up because we haven't actually discussed anything.
Oh, we've covered so many things. We have weaved our own path as well as talking about weaving trust. But what is the legacy that you are weaving?
I say this all the time. On my gravestone, I want to say, Martin got a not practice manager before you say it. Don't jump in there, ruin a good story. I want on my gravestone, Martin Gilchrist never said a bad word about anybody. But it's too late. That ship sailed a long, long time ago. But
well, you just have it with dots after it.
Smiley face.
Winky face.
But there are people that I know in the world that I've never heard say a bad thing about anybody. They've never slagged anybody off, they've never gossiped, and they've always been kind, they've always been generous. And I admire that. I admire that more than the multimillionaires I know, or the captains of industry, or the sporting heroes, or the good-looking or glamorous people, or the marvelous fathers. Take that all away. Nobody needs to know me as the guy that asked the first question, or the deviously handsome and intelligent and suave business leader that everybody thinks I am.
Too late.
Thanks. All I really want to be, if my legacy was, do you know what? Actually, he was a good guy, and he was nice to be around, and I enjoyed his company while he was here, and I miss him now he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell one story around that. I have two best friends, Stephen and Christopher, and I've known them my whole life. Basically from when I was a toddler. I'm 51 years old now, so I've known them 48, 49 years. They've been in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to live together, when you get the studenty sort of age, so we
Mm-hmm.
even lived together. So they're closer to me than my own brothers. They really are very close. But we don't see each other now as much as we like. We'll be meeting up now for Christmas, and we'll generally go fishing
Mm-hmm.
in the summertime, which is like an overnight camping trip. And Michelle always says fishing my ass because we never bring any fishing rods.
It's like book club.
Yeah, it's like book club. Or the books. It's that sort of thing. We're just getting together and we tell the same old stories we've always been telling them. It's nice company. So we've known these two guys all my life. And when I was much younger and going to discos, before I'd met Michelle, like 17, 16, 15, 16, 17, that around about that period of time, my friend Christopher actually lives in Armagh. And we used to rock up to his house and just stay there, like as if we were family. We didn't ask permission. It wasn't like, please, Mrs. Convey, can we stay? It's just we went in, we ate the food, we slept in beds. Other people would arrive. It was, when I think back to it now, the cheek of it, but it was always there. Christopher's house was always a very open house. Like there was, he had, he still has, he has three sisters and three brothers, so it's a big house anyway. There was always a lot of coming and going. Everybody that turned up was welcome, but the centre of the house was Mrs. Convey. And Mrs. Convey, to me, my whole time I knew her from being 14, whatever it was. I think the first time I know it was about 15. She was always really nice to me. Oh, Martin, how are you? Lovely to see you. And it's always great. And then when Michelle turned up, she was even nicer to Michelle. And she always used to say to Michelle, we were delighted that Martin found you, that he had someone to look after him, all this type of stuff. So she's always really nice to us. And about 5 weeks ago, I was driving down. Michelle was in Belfast and I was going to pick her up from something. And Stephen rang me. And I can remember him saying, Martin, I've got bad news. I was driving. Oh, right, okay. He said, Margaret's dead. And I was like, all right, okay, driving along. Because I didn't know who Margaret was. Who do I know called Margaret? Do we know any old people called Margaret? And he said, I haven't been speaking to Christopher yet, but we're going to, and it hit me like a brick in the face. I could not. I just a sudden feeling of shock.
Yeah.
Because how many times do you get to say that person was always really nice to me every single time I met them? How many people are like that have shown you kindness over and above the call of duty or the nature of their job or because they're a relative or whatever the case may be? How many people every time you see them are really kind? And she was one of the very few people. And I didn't think all these things in my mind. I just felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. And I literally had to pull over. And I can't remember the last time I cried. I can't remember the last time I cried like a blooming baby. But I pulled over the car and cried my eyes out. And I had to ring Michelle. Michelle, I don't think I can. She said, well, what's wrong with you? I said, Margaret's dead. And she's
A
like,
real loss.
real.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I felt that was the type of person that she was. And that's the type of person I want to be. I want people... I want cars crashing all over Northern Ireland when the news goes out.
What was it you said about not for narcissistic reasons?
Yeah.
Sure, that was mentioned earlier at the beginning.
Yeah. But I'm not perfect. I admit I'm not perfect, But no, I think that's a real testament to the woman that she was. And the funny, it's not a funny thing, but the truth of the matter was, so she was fine. She was a woman in full health. She was only like her very early 70s, so it was completely unexpected. But she was in her car, and she had a heart attack, and she was in her car.
Goodness.
But she was in her car going to the food bank to deliver food to the food bank. That was, and she was a real
woman going to do a kind thing, a kind task,
But you could have caught her. It could have happened to her at any stage, but she would have been in the middle of doing something good. She would have been either out with her family or doing something, or helping out with her sisters, or do you know when at funerals in this country, like I know that's not the way it should be, but in my experience, there's a certain group of women every funeral that make sure everything works. They know all the funeral rules, and how who's supposed to be
And they have
where.
it just
Yeah,
like
and
that.
they just know it. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a manual or something or special classes for those women. I think there is actually a term for those women within families that that just know what happens at family stuff. And she was one of those, and it wouldn't have mattered when it would have happened. Somebody would have had a story. Yeah, she was helping such and such had just had a baby, and she was helping with that, or such and such needed help clearing. It would have been she was always up to that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's who I want to be.
You want that imprint on people that they feel it deeply and genuinely.
Yeah. And the thing about her was she didn't have to. It wasn't a fake thing.
Yeah.
She was doing it because she was genuine, and you just knew that.
Yeah.
And I hope when people see me talking on something like this. So the reason I'm here doing this with you is because you're a nice person, and I want to have the conversation because you're good fun to talk to. So it wouldn't really matter to me if somebody else seen this or not. We've had a great conversation. But I hope that's evident. I hope people aren't thinking, oh, Martin's putting on this Christmas open coffee on the 4th of December because it's his ego. He wants everybody to come down and give him a round of applause and tell him how great it is. It really isn't that. Really what it's about is
it's deeper. It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we've done it enough now that that's evident. I hope.
Yes. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So where can people find you and follow your work or get involved with whatever things you're organising next? Where's the best place for them to go to find that?
Well, I usually stick my business cards up in telephone boxes around Belfast. Is that not a thing?
I'm sure I've seen it written on the inside of toilets as well.
Oh, he knows. Marty was here.
And that's maybe not the idea that Michelle was going for, in terms of promoting. But
do people still do that? The thing with the nose over the top of the wall. I haven't seen that in a long time. No,
I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about, don't
you?
Yeah, whatever that was. Yeah. things go out of fashion. No.
So where can people find you?
All I have to do is type Martin Gilchrist into Google and bang. Seriously, I'm not joking. It does work like magic. They will also find me on LinkedIn mainly. I do a lot of stuff on there because that's where what I use LinkedIn for is to build a community of people that are actually interested in connecting with each other. So the people that are connected to me are people that are interested in connecting with each other, and then I can keep them up to date with not only events that we're doing at Gilchrist Co, but all the other great stuff that's going on because we get to go to great stuff as well. I'm looking forward to going to your open coffee. When's that happening?
It's to be arranged, apparently.
All right, okay. After Christmas now, because we're booked up tight. Well, it's probably going to be February before I'm available again. But I'll look forward to it in February.
Noted.
Because I know you're an experienced event organizer because you used to do the barkies or the walkies.
Netwalkies.
Netwalkies. That's what it was.
Dog friendly netwalking.
Yeah, so look forward to that. But I'm not too hard to find if you want to find me. Maybe I'm a little bit too easy to find. I'm everywhere.
He's everywhere. Thank you for joining me on Weaving Trust Podcast.
I enjoyed very much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening or watching Weaving Trust Podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you hear future episodes. Each episode will have a different guest and we'll be following them on their journey about how trust has shaped the way they lead, work and live.